Hi, my name's Darren Ashford from the Drum Lesson Academy. In this video lesson, I'm going to give you 2 tips to help your heel up bass drum technique.
drumlessonacademy.com. Take your drumming to the next level.
If you're currently playing heel up techniques with your foot right at the end of the footboard, and I mean kind of closest to the chain or closest to the drum head, then you may not be maximizing the efficiency of that technique. And let me just go into a little bit more detail about that. In fact, I'm going to grab a stick and just show you that. Imagine that is the angle of our footboard, and our foot kind of rests on the footboard like this. If we have our foot all the way at the top of the pedal here, we've got a large distance for it to move downwards before the beater connects with the drum head. If we have our foot halfway down the board, then obviously that distance there is a lot less. So just by the mere fact of physics and trigonometry, I guess, it makes it a lot more efficient. If you go too low, obviously you're going to have to put a lot more effort, because obviously you're going to have to, the turning force there is not very great. So obviously you're going to have to put a lot more effort in if you're really low down the board. But there will be a point on the board where you'll start to play around with maybe some multiple stroke techniques, like the step slide technique or the heel toe technique popularized by players like Steve Gadd. This kind of sweet spot of the pedal will enable you to not only get started with those techniques, but also make them really efficient. And hopefully when you come to perform, you won't be thinking about these techniques too much. You'll just be able to, if you've done the practice, you'll just be able to engage the foot at that sweet spot, naturally feel where it is, and go for these specific techniques. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to turn around to the kick pedal and show you this position. So I would try and avoid, in the heel up position, my toe all the way up at the top of the board like it is at the moment. I would generally come down to about this position here. It's about a third, I guess, of the way down the footboard. Now if I make a few strokes in the heel up position, it's going to look a little bit like this. Now you may be able to see there is the ankle joint is flexing, but that's not the only thing that's moving in my leg here. I'm actually engaging my hip flexors, the muscles in my hips that actually move my thigh. So I'm actually using the whole of my leg to play this stroke, but I'm also using a little bit of a flexion down at the ankle joint there. Now these 2 specific movements are what gives this heel up technique its power. If I was to go into heel up position but to have my heel really high and kind of really flex my calf muscle here so that my heel is very high off the ground, I'm at a position now where I can't actually flex my ankle joint anymore. So now I've closed off that type of movement, that ankle movement, in my stroke. So I can only make the sound by moving from my hip joint. Now this is quite a common trait in drummers who go to play heel up, is they generally have their heels way too high and they close off this movement in the ankle joint. So if you are already doing that, you may want to just in your practice either video yourself or maybe have a mirror at the side of the kit so you can just see if you have any tendencies in your foot technique that are kind of inhibiting access to specific techniques and or volumes. Now once you've found the sweet spot of the pedal and you're not overextending your ankle joint, you should be able to access some multiple stroke techniques. And there's 2 that really spring to mind for me, one of which is sometimes referred to as either step slide technique or foot leg technique. And this is where we produce 2 notes in quick succession, and that looks a little bit like this. Okay, the other multiple stroke technique that's associated with heel up position is sometimes referred to as heel toe technique, constant release, and is probably most commonly associated with players such as Steve Gadd and Steve Smith. So that looks a little bit like this. Okay, so your call to action this month is to start to investigate your heel up technique. Now, if you're somebody who primarily plays heel up technique, just remember this ankle flexion in the movement is a transferable skill that you can take across to heel down playing. And conversely, if you're somebody who primarily plays heel down technique, that ankle flexion is a transferable skill that you can take across to heel up technique. All you need to do is to add the hip flexion into the movement. My name's Darren Ashford from the Drum Lesson Academy. If you have any comments, questions or suggestions, or you'd like to subscribe to my free podcast in iTunes, you can do all this by visiting drumlessonacademy.com. My name's Darren Ashford. Until next time, have a good one.
drumlessonacademy.com. Take your drumming to the next level.